Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a supernatural horror film, The House Next Door. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The man recalls the past events that led to their married life. The muscular and beardy man named Chris reminisces about spending time with his friend when he encountered Lakshmi for the first time. Little did he know that Lakshmi would be his future wife. Soon after, Chris and Lakshmi went on multiple dates. Later on, they found a home in which they settled. After reminiscing about the past, Chris hears the doorbell. After that, while Chris gets his breakfast, Lakshmi notices people moving into the creepy old house next door and informs her husband about their new neighbors. The following day, Chris is in the hospital doing his job as a neurosurgeon. After the operation, he is greeted by his fellow doctor for his success. Soon after, he leaves work to return home. At home, Lakshmi hears something break her house window. As she checks it, she sees a ball from the new neighbor. Soon after, two people from the neighbor's household come to apologize for breaking the window. The older kid introduces herself as Jenny and apologizes for her little sister, who threw the ball. Fortunately, Lakshmi isn't angry about it and invites them inside her home. Jenny then notices the muscular husband, and her hormones get wild by his muscles and sexy beard. However, the two visitors are called back home by their mother. At the old home, Jenny's family is seen preparing for a housewarming party for the neighborhood. The mother asks where the kitchen knife is. She then asks her daughter Jenny, who seems to be pissed off as she is blamed for the missing knife. After that, the conversation ends and they continue preparing for the party. A week later, Jenny's family invites everyone in their neighborhood, including Chris and his wife. As Chris and Lakshmi arrive, they're greeted by Jenny's family. Just then, Jenny spots Chris and plans on seducing him. As Jenny's mother shows Lakshmi around the house, Jenny uses this moment to start seducing Chris. However, despite her efforts, Chris rejects Jenny's hormone advances. After that, Chris wanders around the house, where he spots Jenny's little sister. He notices that she's staring outside the window. As he looks at where she's staring, he finds Jenny standing over a huge well, looking like she is about to jump. Chris calls her to get away from the well, but Jenny just looks at him and falls into the well. Seeing this, Chris alerts Jenny's family, and he rushes to the well to save her. He dives into the well and spots Jenny. However, as he dives to save Jenny, he is horrified to see a ghost replacing Jenny's face. This makes him surface up the well, but he eventually goes back to save Jenny from drowning. After the incident, Lakshmi and Chris return home. Lakshmi then proceeds to scold her husband for saving Jenny as she gets jealous. However, Chris affirms that he only did what was right and Jenny would have died. Lakshmi isn't convinced, but Chris proves that he loves her. A childlike shadow is seen crawling on the ceiling, peeing at them like a peeping Tom. After their 2 minutes game, Jenny's father, Paul, suddenly calls Chris. He tells Chris that Jenny is having a seizure after the party ended. Frantically, Chris rushes to help Jenny. As he arrives at their neighbor's home, Chris tries to stop Jenny from hurting herself during her seizure. He sedates Jenny, possibly with his hormones, and she calms down quickly. However, she suddenly bites his shoulder for more, and Chris is forced to sedate her again. The next day, Lakshmi asks her husband about Jenny's condition. Suddenly, the couple gets a surprise visit from Jenny. She thanks Chris for saving her, while Chris recommends that she goes to the hospital for a checkup. After agreeing to Chris' advice, Jenny bids farewell to the couple. Later that day, Jenny is scanned for any brain damage. Chris reveals that Jenny is completely normal and is reaffirmed that seizures can happen for no apparent reason. Meanwhile, the mother is seen sorting Jenny's clothes. As she picks up the clothes in the cabinet, she finds a kitchen knife hidden inside. Mother wonders why Jenny lied and hid it there. Just then, she noticed some strange writings inside the cabinet, spelling "Get out." After a while, Lakshmi visits Jenny's house. When she rings the doorbell, it doesn't work, so she lets herself in. In one of the hallways, Lakshmi notices a child's shadow behind a curtain. But before she could check it, Jenny's mother calls out to her. Lakshmi then asks about the kids and finds out that both Jenny and her sister are not at home, making her wonder whose shadow was behind the curtain. They then have a conversation, and Lakshmi invites them to dinner at their home. Jenny's mother accepts the offer and informs the rest of the family about it. Later that night, during dinner at Chris' house, the little sister doesn't join them. During that time, they talk about matters regarding their family and neighbors. Meanwhile, Jenny tries to seduce Chris by touching his legs under the table. However, Chris reacts suddenly, which alerts Lakshmi, and he shows that he rejects Jenny's seduction tactic. After dinner, Jenny wants to return home after failing her seduction. Just then, she notices someone at her house's window. She looks at her parents to inform them about it, and as she looks back, the figure from the window rushes toward her. Jenny freaks out, so Paul and Chris rush to her, asking what's the commotion. Jenny tells them about the ghost in the window, but they do not see it. They dismiss Jenny's nonsense, and her family returns home to sleep. Later that night, Paul hears the piano playing. Paul checks on the room where the piano is, but only sees a recorder playing a piano tune. He also sees his family are all asleep in bed. After looking around, he finds Jenny by the crucifix in the hallway, lit with an ominous red light. He asks why she is there, and she tells him that she hears the piano playing, even though the recorder has lost its battery. Jenny walks away back to her bed, and her father thinks she's acting strange. However, this time a piano plays. A ghostly hand is seen playing it instead of the recorder, and it's leaving bloody fingerprints. The next day, Chris and Lakshmi's maid finds a phone that belongs to Jenny. Lakshmi tries to confiscate it, but the phone suddenly rings. Chris answers the call and hears that Jenny and her sister are missing. Paul asks for Chris help to look for them. Meanwhile, somewhere in the mountains, Jenny is seen wandering around near the cliffs while her sister follows her. Chris and Paul later arrive at that spot, as Paul knows Jenny visits there often. Just then, they see both Jenny and her sister near the cliff and chase after them. Suddenly, the little sister starts tumbling down to the cliff as if something is pulling her. Chris then chases after her and manages to catch her in time before she falls. Meanwhile, Paul confronts Jenny, who is not responding to him as she's in a trance. After a while, she walks back home. They then ask Jenny why she did something so dangerous, but she is still in a trance. Paul snaps at her, and Jenny suddenly collapses, as if something left her body. After seeing this, Chris thinks that something is wrong with Jenny mentally and suggests that they need to take her to the hospital. Later that day, Chris introduces them to a psychiatrist. Shortly after, they start Jenny's therapy session. Jenny reveals that she has been experiencing paranormal activities in the house ever since they moved in. She adds that one instance at night, a telephone dropped on the floor near the crucifix, and a voice told her to get out of the house. Another instance was when she was greeted by two bloody figures when in the bathroom. Jenny tells the doctor that she never told the family about it, since they wouldn't believe her smelly bullshit. Jenny then asks the doctor not to tell their father about it. After her session, Chris and Paul ask the doctor about the session. The doctor thinks that she is paranoia that makes her delusional. Meanwhile, at home, Paul's father hires an expert in the occult to help Jenny. As soon as Jenny and the others arrive home, the nomad asks for Jenny's cooperation in the exorcism. However, Paul doesn't believe in the occult and asks the nomad to leave. At night, Paul hears Jenny singing a tune while looking at strange baby statues. He gets worried and calls the doctor to meet with them at their home. As the doctor arrives, he inspects the room, only to see Jenny has been obsessed with the occult and she has been researching about it. He puts Jenny under scientific hypnosis and learns that there are spirits possessing her. The doctor tells the two men that they'll need a pastor. Later on, they meet the pastor and ask him for an exorcism for the horny Jenny. The pastor agrees, and they set up the ritual in Jenny's room. As the ritual begins, the pastor recites passages from the Bible. Just then, Jenny starts acting strange as two spirits possess her. The first spirit inflicts self-harm on Jenny and enacts a suicide by stabbing her stomach, while the second spirit contorts the horny Jenny as if she is losing her mind. Suddenly, Jenny contorts more violently as the spirits go wild and start attacking the people around her. She also attacks Chris many times and shows that she really hates him, but no one knows why she did so. Luckily, the pastor manages to exorcise Jenny, but before the spirits leave her body, they whisper disturbing things to the pastor. In the following moment, the pastor goes into a coma as the words are too heavy to bear for a religious man. At the hospital, the pastor is getting treated, while the rest are trying to uncover the mystery behind both Jenny's condition and the spirit's whisper. Meanwhile, at Jenny's home, even though Jenny is exorcised, the family tells Paul that they should leave the house. However, Jenny insists that everything's fine now and the spirits won't be chasing them anymore. The rest of the family then agrees to stay, but their maid is still worried. Later that night, the maid of Jenny's household conducts her ritual to ward off the spirits using a voodoo doll. However, Paul doesn't like the occult, so he orders her to stop. Just then, as Paul leaves her for the night, something approaches the maid from outside the house. Suddenly, the bed behind the maid rises, and she gets pulled underneath. Cloth wraps around her like the voodoo doll she used, and she gets impaled in the head, the same way she impaled the pin on the voodoo doll. The following day, Lakshmi is celebrating her pregnancy and informs her husband about it. They also discover that it's a girl, and they plan to celebrate with the neighbors next door. Meanwhile, Paul and his family are wondering where their maid is. As Paul investigates her room and notices the doll from last night, he learns that the maid didn't leave, but instead she was killed by something paranormal. This forces Paul to accept the paranormal happenings, and he starts to ask for the help of the nomad again. As the nomad asks for the spirits of the house to return and talk to him, he learns that the two spirits are a woman and a child who are warning them about a demon. But it's too late. The demon has awoken because the eclipse nears. It turns out the demon is hellbent on trapping them in the house till the eclipse. Meanwhile, the doctor learns the same thing about the woman and child, that they were the previous owners of the house. He also discovers that the demon was the husband of the woman, and the doctor plans to inform Chris when they meet. Later that night, Chris is on the bed, when suddenly he hears something outside the house. He sees the two spirits seem to hate him, but it is only his dream. The following day, Lakshmi tries to get ready, but the water in the house is not working. She tries to fix it, but is only haunted in daylight by the child's spirit. This leads to an accident that may terminate her pregnancy. When she goes to the hospital, the doctor suggests she be on bed rest, and luckily, there are no other problems. Soon after, Chris starts to operate in the same hospital. However, his operation fails as he hallucinates like Jenny. This gets him suspended, and he uses the free time to watch over his wife. Just then, the other doctor tells Chris of his discovery of Jenny's case and about how it will affect the exorcism of the neighbor next door. Meanwhile, Paul asks the nomad to discover the whispers the spirits told the pastor. He then uses the spirit's belongings to see the memories of the past, and he is led to the spot where Jenny visits often. At the same time, the doctor and Chris ask about their past from an old woman who lived with the previous owners. They all learn the shocking truth that the haunting husband was a satanic ritualist who was obsessed with getting a son. But for him to get a son, he needed to behead his own daughter, so that the next kid will be a boy. However, after beheading the daughter, his enraged wife committed suicide, depriving him the chance to get a son. Filled with regrets, the husband jumped into the well, swearing that he would come back in the next eclipse. Due to the evil ritual performed, the husband became a haunting demon, but the dead mother and daughter chose to stay as spirits, to warn people and fight the demon husband. That's why they left the get out message to the family, trying to notify them of the danger. After the revelation, they all plan to run away, but the nomad tells them it's not safe to run during the eclipse. During that time, the doctor and Chris also head back to the neighbors, since the eclipse is coming. Meanwhile, Lakshmi gets into an encounter with the two spirits, who scare her into the room of the pastor. Then the pastor tells her the whispers of the spirits and reveals that her husband is now hosting the demon in his body. Shortly after, Lakshmi calls her husband to the neighbor's house to get help. However, as Chris goes to find Jenny and her sister in the room, Lakshmi locks him and his sexy beard inside. She then explains to her husband that he has been unknowingly possessed by the evil spirit when he dived into the well to save Jenny. The doctor is revealed to have known of this, and when he tries to stall Chris kills him. Just then, Chris starts attacking everyone by throwing them across the house. He also manages to get Jenny's sister, who is the same age as the demon's spirit daughter. Chris initiates the ritual, and he prepares to cut off her head. However, when Lakshmi threatens to kill herself in the same way the spirit wife did, Chris fights the demon for control over his body. Then Chris manages to gain control to let the little girl escape, but shortly after, the demon controls him again and tries to attack Jenny's sister. Fortunately, they tackle him in joint efforts and manage to exorcise the demon. This leads to the two spirits helping and fighting the demon within. As the demon loses and vanishes, Chris returns to normal, and all of the spirits disappear. A few years later, Chris and Lakshmi move out of that neighborhood along with Jenny's family. At their housewarming, Jenny's family congratulates them on their new house for the newborn baby. But little did they know that their son is the son of the demon, as Chris was possessed by the demon during the conception of the pregnancy. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.